Okay, this is 34-1 part 2. So we're going to do another example the long way and the short way, just so you get kind of another idea and understanding of how surface area works and what it is, and then we'll do two more just with the short method. So the long method is finding the area of all of the surfaces. So here I have a hexagonal prism. So when I make a net of that, there's a hexagon here, a hexagon there, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rectangles. So we have 8 different surfaces to find. Let's call this surface number 1 and this surface number 2, and let's find those. Surface 1 is a hexagon, so you might have to look back at your formulas that we used maybe in the last chapter. A hexagon, the formula is 1/2 AP, 1/2 apothem perimeter. So, do we know the apothem? Remember the apothem center to side? Well, yeah, look right here. Center to side, that's 4 for an apothem. And what's the perimeter of this rectangle? 5, sorry, not rectangle, hexagon. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So 5 times 6 is 30. When I multiply that out, I get 60 centimeters squared. And you just use your calculator. 1/2 times 4 times 30. That's a hexagon, just like we did in the last chapter test. Now how about surface 2? Well, it's the exact same as surface 1, so it's also going to be 60. I don't have to show work for that again. Now let's look at, I'll call this figure 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a rectangle, and let's look at how big this rectangle is. There's a 5 here and a 7 there. So this rectangle right here that my cursor is at is 5 by 7. 5 by 7 is 35. So that means this rectangle is also the same. All of these rectangles will be the same, so this one will be 35, 35, 35, and so on. Pause if you need to write that down, and grab a calculator and add up all 8 surfaces to get the total surface area. You should get 330 centimeters squared. Again, that's the long way. If you like this long way, great, but you're going to have to draw a net every time. Well, you don't have to, but you're going to have to show me a bunch of numbers every single time if you want to do this method. The short method is to notice patterns and use a formula. So please write down your formula and leave some blanks. This shorter method allows us to not add up 8 different numbers. What we do is we find the area of this base one time and we double it, and then we treat all of these little rectangles as one big rectangle. So let's go ahead and get started. For capital B, that's the area of the base. So I always want you to do that separately somewhere. Write down capital B, and then it's nice to write what shape the base is. In this case, it's a hexagon. The formula is 1/2 AP, which you would show your work. We've already done it, so we're going to say 60. But on your homework, you're going to show the work because you're not going to have to do it this method. So the area of the base is 60. Now, let's look at this PH part. Remember, that is a shortcut for this big rectangle. So this is, use a different color. This is P, which stands for perimeter of the base. Because, look, if I were to fold that up, it would fold right along here, the perimeter of the base, right? So this distance is P, the perimeter of this base. So how big is the perimeter of the base? Well, 5, 5, 5, 5. We already found that. That's 5, 6 times. So that's 30. And then height, notice height here, it's not height of the base, it's the distance between this base and this base, the distance between this hexagon and this hexagon back here. How far apart are they? 7. Okay, so when I grab my calculator and type that in, I get 330 centimeters squared. Watch it again if you need to. The last two examples that we're going to do, and you're only going to have 3 for homework, and you're only going to do it the short method. Let's look at the short method. For number 3, notice there's not a net, not a two-dimensional figure. We're going to find the surface area, the area of all the surfaces added up. So it says, find the surface area of the blank prism. What kind of prism is this? Triangular prism, pentagonal prism, rectangular prism? Most people either say triangular prism or rectangular prism. The correct answer is triangular prism. And the reason I know it's a triangular prism is because there's a triangle base here and a triangle base back here, and everything else is a rectangle. That's always the pattern for prisms. 2 bases that are parallel to one another, everything else is a rectangle. So we need to find these 3 things. First is B, area of the base. So please write down capital B and write what shape it is. Triangle. Write the formula for area of a triangle, which you might use the last unit for. Triangles are 1/2 base times height. So let's look at one of these purple triangles and find the area of one of them. What's the base and what's the height? The base is 8. The height is 3. Multiply that out. You get 12. The label is centimeters squared. You don't have to label it every single time as long as the final answer is labeled. So the area of one of these triangles is 12, but the formula says we're going to double it to get that one back here. Next is P. P stands for perimeter of the base. So if this is my base, how far is it around this figure? Well, I didn't label all of them, so I was going to tell you in the video that if this one is 8, you can assume they're all 8 unless I tell you otherwise in the directions. So 8 and 8 and 8 is 24. The perimeter of the base. Finally, H stands for height. Now remember, it's not 3. If you look at the very beginning, we said height stood for the distance between the bases. So how far is it from this purple base to this purple base? What's the height, the distance between the bases? 15. I am always going to be looking for your specific variables. B is usually the only one you have to show work for. Okay, grab a calculator, type that out. And you should get 384 centimeters squared. That's your final answer. I can't stress this enough that I'm going to need to see the formula and each of these 3 numbers filled in, and then your final answer. Okay, last one. Find the surface area of the, what do we call this? Well, we don't call it a prism because the base is not made of straight edges. We call it a cylinder. So fill in the word cylinder. The formula remains the same. So let's write 2b plus ph. Alright, so you should have the formula written and you should have some blanks. Let's go ahead and work on these blanks. Capital B, area of the base. So I put capital B, area of a circle. That's my base. Now, what's the formula for area of a circle again? That's pi r squared. Okay, so what do we have there? Well, pi, my radius is 4. What's 4 squared? 16. You don't need to type the pi right now. It's nice and neat the way it is with no decimal. So the area of the base is 16 pi. So I should see the work off to this side, and I should see you fill it in. Next is P, perimeter of the base. So perimeter of this circle, which I made a note, that's circumference. The distance around a circle is called circumference. So sometimes you'll see people use a C here if they're talking about a cylinder, because we usually don't call it P, perimeter. We usually call it circumference, the distance around the base of a circle is circumference. So what's the formula for circumference of this? Circumference is 2 pi r. 2 pi, my radius is 4. So my perimeter is 8 pi. Again, I should see that work. The perimeter I fill in, 8 pi. Finally, the height. Again, I can't stress this enough. Height is not 4, height is not 8. The formula says that this h stands for the height, the distance between the two bases. How far apart are these two bases? 15. No work for that. Grab a calculator. You can type it all in at one time. When you do that, it might take you a minute, but check it. You should get 477.52 centimeters squared. Okay, I know this is new. It can be tricky. The most important thing is you have in your notes what these letters stand for. Area of the base, perimeter of the base, height, distance between the two bases. Find each thing separately. That way when you say, I don't get it, I can say, okay, what couldn't you get? What couldn't you get? Was it the perimeter of the base, the area of the base? Do you not know what the base is? If you can give me a specific question on which part you can't get, I can really help you. Okay, so give your homework a try, and then we'll keep working on this tomorrow.